All right, welcome to another episode of Poncha Talk. My name is Ellie. I'm host of Poncha Talk. Welcome to the podcast. We talk about the digital nomad life, remote work, and just a flexible lifestyle to pursue your passion. Today, I'm excited to have Uroš with me here. And he will tell us all about his life as a super connector and workshop facilitator.
Hello, everybody. So I'm Uroš, originally from Serbia, but I live in Sweden. I've been living in Sweden for some time, and I'm fairly new to the world of remote work and being a nomad. I learned about it actually this year. I met some nomads back in Stockholm, and they introduced me to the nomad world. First going to Bansko Nomad Fest, which is like enormous. Have you been to Bansko? No? All right. It's fantastic. I saw the incredible ecosystem that nomads have, which I was oblivious about it before. Yeah, I just started to meet a lot of people in the Bansko Nomad Fest, and a lot of doors open in some way.
All right, welcome to the show. So you were at the Nomad Fest, and what was it that really spoke to you there that made you want to learn more about this digital nomad lifestyle?
Well, at the Nomad Fest, there were a number of speakers that have a very strong voice in terms of what they do in the world, and especially the way they move around the world. And in particular, this woman that you just mentioned, Liron. Funny enough, when we met based on the topic on podcast, and because I'm a podcaster myself, and then we exchanged a couple of episodes. And Ellie just happens to listen to my first one, which is the most embarrassing one. And then the second one she listened to is the one that we were just talking about, which is the topic of networking. And this woman is specializing in building international relationships and helping companies or small and big land deals in between countries, or just helping companies connect to people. Yeah. And that's like one of the key things. She's one of the key women that I resonate with because of our personalities in terms of networking. Yeah, we kept in touch. I had a podcast with her, and ever since then we kept in touch. And yeah, I'm learning a lot from a woman that is very international.
So speaking of your podcast, Network Like a Pro, it's called, and you've been doing it for 3 years. So you've been in the networking topic and area for quite some time. But you just recently have expanded to the international world or to the remote work?
I mean, I'm not in I've been very briefly in the remote work world, unfortunately, because I'm mostly in Stockholm based, and I've entered the world of entrepreneurship through my networking, and I started to learn what does it mean to be an entrepreneur. And I started my own company in Stockholm where I facilitate different types of workshops, mostly when it comes to strategy development, story building, team development, these kinds of things. But for some reason, I was always like afraid of leaving Sweden because I was brought there by my parents when I was 16. And given that I was brought in one of the best societies possibly, or presumably, I felt guilt for leaving because I feel like I need to make it in Stockholm, even though it necessarily doesn't socially resonate with me in terms of there's no spontaneity as much as here in Madeira, and the sunshine in December, and the t-shirt weather in December. No. It's a very different life in Stockholm. Yeah. I forgot the original question that you asked. The networking, okay. Well, building relationship with high-level professionals is something very entertaining for me. I love being the smallest person in the room. I have a thing when it comes to intellectually connecting with people. Yeah, that has opened a number of doors for me in terms of learning from amazing people. And coming here at another Nomad Fest, this is my second Nomad Fest, I met some absolutely amazing people, and I have their number. I have the first famous person's number. I feel great honor in having a first famous person number. So this person is called Ken Honda. You can Google him. He's very famous. And he talks about energy of money mostly. And I'm going to host him in Stockholm, which is feels extraordinary to say. And we're in touch, and he's like, yeah, I'll come to Stockholm. And he wants me to organize an event for him.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, because I thought about it when I was thinking about topics for the episode. I mean, your superpower is networking and connecting people. And I've realized that I was never much into networking myself, but the more I got into the remote life, I realized the more important it is, because especially when you want to like break free from a traditional 9 to 5 life, like those opportunities are not going to be on a job board or something. You can't just send your resume to somebody. You need the networking. But then it's also, I think in the remote world, or not remote, but in the nomad world, it's difficult to network because people come and go all the time. How do you stay in touch with everybody that you meet along the way?
So that's a misconception. You don't need to stay in touch with everybody. What's really important is that you basically develop a bit of a laser eye when it comes to specific people that you resonate with the most. Like when I'm in a social environment, and there are two things that I do. So first is assess their energy in terms of, is this person I would like to be around? So that's the first step. Okay, I like this person to be around. Oh, they're also ahead of me in a couple of different ways. Okay, is this the way they are ahead of me? Is that aligned with the steps I want to take? And if it's a yes, click. Make sure that this person is that I'm on the radar of this person, and I stay on the radar of this person. And also understanding that oftentimes, in order for results to come out of networking, it takes months. From our first contact to something coming out of it, it often takes months. So that's also something to keep in mind, because it takes not weirdly, but it's just how it is. It just takes months for relationship to mature, for something to come out of it. So you gotta be in a way outcome independent. You gotta like that other person's vibe, and you gotta make sure that that other person likes you for who you are, what you do, and that other person is a number of steps ahead of you in terms of where you want to go.
Well, I'm glad we are already recording an episode 4 days after we met, not months. I was really fast networking then.
I work in terms of I oftentimes I think through identities. So we as people, we have number of identities that we live by. So whether some basic is that we're a daughter, or a son, or a brother, or sister, or a friend. That's an identity. Another identity is that your work identity is another identity. And I often think in terms of, okay, this is my identity. How do I work with this identity? So within the super connector identity, there's different identities. For example, Tarzan. I definitely identify myself as a Tarzan. So in a social setting, I'm like, internally, I'm like, And I'm like, oh, Ellie's doing a podcast. Okay. Oh, and I like the style of your podcast. I like what you do with your podcast. And I made sure that I make an impression. Okay, so this is one of my networking strategies. I don't care that much about making good first impression. I care about making an impression people will remember. Given my bit of a performance identity and showmanship, because that's just who I am, I tend to know how to stand out. Like, for example, in a person's day, in the person's 24 hours. So, oh, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. How are you? All that jazz. And then I just like to stand out in different ways. And once the interaction finishes, that the person goes like, what was that? Yeah, that's how you stick out in person's day. And now I'm part of your day now. We made the episode today, and I'm spreading my energy and making you laugh and all that. Yeah, so this is also networking. It's
With your very first podcast episode, you definitely reached that. What was that moment? And it stood out. So goal accomplished, I guess.
Yes. Given my energetic nature, sometimes I don't know. I have a trouble toning it down, and I really definitely didn't tone it down on that episode. So the thing is, given that I eliminated myself from both Instagram and Facebook, and given that I have a lot of energy, I need an outlet. Then I lost a certain competition to get a school's podcast that was supposed to be passed down to new generation of students, and I was given advice that I should create my own podcast. I was like, fantastic, let's go! And and within a week, of getting that idea. I executed an idea. I recorded an episode. I was like, platform, which platform? Click, 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 upgrade, shoot off, publish across like internal school platform. And yeah, I just made sure to put as much of my personality in that episode as I could. That was my main strategy. Let's go all out in those 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of personality in that one episode. But it was, like I said, it stood out because I honestly, I don't listen to too many podcasts, but I definitely have never listened to a podcast like that before. You've always been networking and you have a lot of energy. And do you ever get tired of meeting new people though? Because you're centering your whole life around networking now.
That's a very good question. I mean, I do get tired, of course, and I made sure, like, when it comes to being in social situations, a very big thing is to protect your energy, because it's a lot of chaos out there. It's a lot of chaos in social situations, and I'm not necessarily an empath, which is a specific type of people that just pick up energies unintentionally. I learned about empathy maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, where I was like, oh my God, empathy. That's amazing. But at the same time, I have a choice over who I want to empathize with. I don't empathize with everybody. I just empathize with who I want to empathize with. And trying to empathize with too many people, that just leads to like an emotional downhill. So I make sure to protect myself. I have to constantly regulate myself in terms of where do I invest my energies. And I don't want to invest my energies to everybody, you know? Like the other day I was in a barbecue and I just didn't feel like connecting, and I just don't connect because I need to protect myself.
I think that's very important. And because a lot of people that come here in like this digital nomad community, I think they experience that as well, because there's such a big turnaround of people all the time. But eventually I noticed that for myself now too, because I used to travel all the time. Now I've been on Madeira a bit longer, and I'm investing more energy into the people that I know will also stay here longer on like a personal level, because that's just nothing against people that are leaving. Of course, sometimes when it's a fit, but it's just, yeah, I'm learning to nurture or focus on those relationships that will bloom in the future and not waste too much energy left and right. You've mentioned the word super connector a couple times now, and of course, I guess it has to do with networking, but can you tell a little bit more about what exactly is a super connector? I don't even know if it's an official term, and also where you see yourselves going with that.
Thank you for that question. It's one of the topics that is very near and dear to me. After years of networking, spending a time with people who are more qualified, more skilled, more experienced, you start to see some patterns, and you start to see, okay, these people, even though they're fantastic, they don't have the skills that I do, which is to network. So what started to happen is I started to connect higher level individuals who are specialized in something. They don't necessarily have the type of access that I do. So I know, plenty of specialized individuals that don't have networking capabilities. And what I do is just start to introduce these individuals to each other. And then I started to do this unconsciously. I started to do this habitually. I start to do this instinctively. That just, like, whoa, like this is like automatic behavior now, like for me to connect people to other people. And for some reason, it's always like higher level professionals. It's never really, I don't know what to do with my life. Maybe I can connect you with somebody, but for some reason, it's significantly easier to connect higher level individuals than people who are starting their professional journey.
So you want to continue to do that, just working with the higher level individuals to bring them forward?
That's a very interesting frame. Not necessarily to bring them forward, but to enrich. In terms of socially. And guess who is the middle? I am in the middle. So it's me in the end who gets like recognition like under the surface. Yeah, they get value from each other, but they are grateful for me because I was the point of contact, and I level up my capital with people in terms of, oh, okay, Uroš is really good. So it's an advertisement basically. So when they need something that is in realm of my capabilities, I will be the top of mind. So it's an investment. Constantly investing in my network, so that at some point, when something pops up on their radar that is in alignment with what I can do, I'm the first person to think about.
That's smart. So you're basically helping them out while also helping yourself, make networking for yourself, and just creating opportunities maybe, or opening up doors for the future.
Yes.
So you do it you have your podcast, you also do the workshops that are focused around creating connections as well, right? Is that your main profession at the moment? Or do you want it to be?
That's a really good question. So most of these things, like in terms of networking, is a hobby, is something I do out of passion because I enjoy it. And every now and then I get a referral from these kinds of things. But I do networking events in Stockholm, and they're getting more and more professional. So I kind of graduated in terms of podcasting is one-on-one. But what if I bring 50 people in the room? That's like significantly higher podcast times 50, you know. So I just bring high level professionals onto the panel, for example, and I invite a bunch of people, and there's an event, there's pizza, there's 3 hours of mingle and talking about smart things. And by the end, like, oh, Uroš is really good at hosting. Uroš is really good at this and that, managing the room. Okay, he has this and that. I can sell myself. The event is a funnel as well, so people get introduced to me. They get the personal contact with me. And I can, in the end, go, by the way, this is the QR code, where you can see more. So that's how I see myself evolving when it comes to those topics.
And you're going back to Stockholm tomorrow already, back to the cold and the snow. There's always a flight back to Madeira. But you touched on it a little bit before when you talked about, well, you came to Sweden and you feel guilt, to be there and to grow in that space because it was a good opportunity for you at the time. Supposedly. But where do you really want to go?
I want to say here. Here is fantastic. Madeira is just so beyond wonderful. This is December, people. This is December. No, sorry, my bad. It's January. It's January. Yeah, I forgot about it. Where do I see myself after? Well, I started to build more and more international relationships. There was a good quote by one of the speakers at the festival, and he says, "Nomads don't travel for location. Nomads travel for community." I am learning more and more about international communities. I was like, ooh, a couple of people that I know are over there. That's good enough with me. As long as my people are there, that's where I want to go.
I like that quote. We travel for community, not for places. I like it, yeah. Because it's true. And Madeira has such a nice community. I mean, you've also been to other Nomad fests. I forgot where it was the first one we went. Banskov. I'm not exactly even sure where that is. Bulgaria. Okay. So have you seen like different types of nomad communities, or do you feel like it's similar?
I mean, it is similar. What I learned in Bansko is that the nomad world is an ecosystem, international ecosystem. People who don't care about borders that much. And it's very similar. I mean, the level of outgoingness and the way nomads find like sweet spots. Because Stockholm is not necessarily a sweet spot. Madeira is a sweet spot. Bansko is a sweet spot. I know you never heard of it, but it is a sweet spot. It's a very tiny town that is very sunny, and it's a top of the mountain, and everything is a walking distance, and it's just wonderful. And the Stockholm is just big. People are in their bubble. If you want to go anywhere, it takes half an hour of commuting. Commuting is like a big thing in Stockholm. So yeah, if you want to go there, it takes you 1 hour of your day at least. At least. That's a different lifestyle.
I'm not hearing very many reasons for you to stay in Stockholm. It's interesting to see now because you're establishing your workshops in Stockholm and you're focusing there on higher level professionals, which I'm sure there's not there. They might be more in the big cities, in Stockholm, probably. I don't know. I've never been. But then you have this community now, the Nomad community, that's probably in different places than the high level professionals that you're trying to work with. Do you have a plan of bringing that together in the future?
Of course, in the future. And so, for example, what I'm learning is I'm very new to the Nomad world. And the more I spend time around nomads and workshops and seeing the workshops other people are organizing, the more I see the possibilities. And it's a very short time because I've been in Stockholm for 13 years. So I kind of know ins and outs of the system and how to go about that system. So, and this is a very new system to me. At some point, this part of my personality, the nomad personality, will bloom. But in my current situation is that I need a more stability, that's why I'm seeking to be in a field of learning and development. And I'm gonna have a day after I land, I'm going to have an interview in that corporation that is based on networking. And very good networking tip also is that woman that you just mentioned, so the second podcast you checked, I told her what I want to do. And she's like, why don't you contact the heads of department of where you want to be and you invite them to the podcast and see from there. And that's what I did. I took her advice. I found a company. I found the head of the department that I want to be in. I invited her to the podcast. We clicked very well on many different levels. She liked me. And I was like, by the way, I'm interested in your field. Do you have open position? And she was like, not right now, but good to know. And now, 3 months later, after the podcast, I'm going to have an interview with her. I bypassed the application process because she's the head of the department. She's a big decision maker. And it's a company is like multinational. So hopefully, given my super networking skills, if I bring that into an organization, we'll see what happens from there.
Congratulations on the interview. That's a good story and success story for networking. But yeah, I'm also learning that things don't happen right away. It's like you have to put breadcrumbs out and leave an impression everywhere. And then, like you said, also like 3 months later, I'm sure you left a memorable impression with her. So she reached back out. Need to be patient over time and see. And then from this, like you said, it's a multinational company. Are they on Madeira though?
As long as I get to do workshops every day of the week, I'm happy. As long as I get to work with people and use my superpowers to bring structure and to bring life to teams and to help direct in some way the organization. I think that's a very meaningful and fulfilling thing. I would like to add to what you said about the breadcrumbs and making an impression and stuff like that. So the podcast was very successful. It got a lot of attention, which from her perspective was like, oh wow, this guy, like, it's not just an impression, it's impression, Nice. And it's also, so you also showed me your style when it comes to networking. You leave breadcrumbs like this. You leave a breadcrumb here, you leave a breadcrumb here. As a Tarzan, I take, how, so when people plant forests, there's different ways of planting forests. One of the ways is to take a bunch of these special seeds, you go to an airplane and you drop it. So that's what I do. I don't leave a breadcrumb here. I don't leave a breadcrumb here. I take my bucket of seeds and I'm like, hello everybody.
Yeah, I don't think I would have the personality and especially not the energy to carry buckets of seeds everywhere I go.
Okay, if I do assessment of your confidence situation and the way you can progress with your confidence. So on first observation is you are very polite, and your politeness could be a barrier to standing out. So I kind of designed myself to stand out, and by standing out, I get more attention and more opportunity to make my impression. Much like in the forests. So, for example, when the trees grow, some trees are in the shadow of other trees. In social settings, because we're not trees, we can move out of the shadows and we can break through and we can get the most sunlight, and then we can allow ourselves to be a little bit crazy, take on the risk of being judged, and express ourselves in our full authenticity to as many people as possible. And once we do that habitually, then that becomes easy. It's not a big deal anymore. You go to new environments, you've been through the process of, okay, I feel like standing out right now, so I'm just gonna do that. There's an opportunity, of course, with your style. Everybody has their unique style. There's a specific type of stage that you can take from this type of stage that you want to go to. Of course, you can act politely, which is in a way not necessarily standing out, or you can take a risk and be willing to be perceived in a more, make sure that when they leave the room, they're like, what was this? They think about you when they leave the room. But if you don't do that, if you keep being polite, they're like, oh, she's nice. Anyhow, what do you want to eat?
Yeah, no, thank you for the feedback. And actually, one of my New Year's intentions, or whatever you call it, was to have more confidence in certain situations. So I will listen to a few more of your podcast episodes for more inspiration of how to stand out. No, I think it's really cool though what you do. It's a great mission to network and bring people together. Thank you for sharing all your experience and plans with us. I always end episodes with one last question. Since we are on Madeira here, what has been your favorite Madeira moment?
There are so many favorite moments. Like yesterday was my favorite moment, and the day before yesterday was my favorite moment. There's so many favorite moments, Like yesterday we were with some friends in the jacuzzi and the pool, and we're swimming and jumping into water and listening to music very loudly, and it was a fantastic moment. We're in a sauna, and I have my speaker, and the sauna is not working, so we're kind of bored, so we just started to dance in the sauna. There's so many favorite moments. Like basically every week there's a couple of favorite moments. So it's really hard to say.
Nice. That's also a good answer. It's a good place for you here then, right? Then hopefully you will book a return flight soon and be back on the island. Thanks again for your time today on your last day. Thanks everybody for listening to the episode. If you want to learn more about networking, check out Network Like a Pro podcast or follow on LinkedIn. I will link it in the description of the episodes, the podcast and the LinkedIn profile to learn more about networking. And then, of course, as always, give it a thumbs up and follow Poncha Talk on social media for more stories from Madeira. Thank you. Bye. See you next time.